I've pulled people out of the water before, panicked kids, reckless teenagers, the occasional drunk tourist who swore they could swim. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the moment he went under. 1 second he was slicing through the blue water with perfect strokes, steady, smooth, almost hypnotic, the kind of swimmer who didn't fight the water. He moved with it. And then, like a candle blown out, he disappeared. No splash, no cry, just gone. My whistle hit the tiles before I even realized I'd dropped it. I dove. The water swallowed me whole, cold and heavy against my skin. For a heartbeat, I couldn't see him. Panic crashed through me so violently I tasted metal in my mouth. Then there, a blur sinking deeper, limbs slowing, chest barely moving. I kicked down harder, my hands wrapped around his torso, and heat shot through me at the contact, unexpected, electric. I didn't know his name. I didn't know why he always swam alone, or why he carried sadness in his shoulders, like a weight he couldn't shake. But I knew the way my heart kicked when I pulled him toward me, as if some part of me had been waiting for this moment without understanding why. We broke the surface with a gasp, my lungs burning, his chest frighteningly still. "Hey, stay with me," I said, dragging him to the edge, my voice shaking harder than my hands. I started compressions, counting under my breath, refusing to let fear win. Then finally he choked, coughed violently, and water streamed from his lips. His eyes fluttered open, ocean blue, dazed, a little wild. Before I could say anything, his fingers shot up suddenly cold, trembling, and closed around my wrist. Don't let go," he rasped. The world seemed to freeze. The air, the distant splashes, the murmurs around us, everything faded. All I felt was his grip anchoring me, like somehow I was the only solid thing he could cling to. "I'm right here," I whispered, though I didn't understand why my chest tightened at the words. His hand loosened slowly, but he didn't look away from me. There was something in his gaze, something raw, unguarded, something that felt like the beginning of a question he didn't know how to ask. At the time, I didn't know what that look meant. Later, I would, much more than I ever expected. "My name is Brian Thompson. I'm 20, and if you ask me why I'm still working as a seasonal lifeguard at a community pool instead of chasing the big dreams I used to brag about in high school, I'd give you a half smile and some safe, forgettable answer like, I like the sun. The truth is messier. The truth usually is. My day starts before the sun has fully climbed over the trees that surround the pool. Everything is quiet, then peaceful, in a way I've always struggled to be. The water lies perfectly still, the surface flat like polished glass. I walk its perimeter every morning, checking the safety buoys, tightening loose ropes, skimming out leaves and gum wrappers that somehow find their way in overnight. It's repetitive work, but routine has a way of stitching stability into days that would otherwise feel empty. By the time the gates open, the world brightens. Families shuffle in with floaties, shaped like cartoon animals. Teenage boys try to flex harder than the chlorine fumes, and elderly swimmers claim the shallow end for their slow, meditative laps. I sit in my lifeguard chair, whistle around my neck, red float at my side end. Watch everyone living slices of their lives in the cool blue water. Most days are the same, and maybe that's why I've stayed. Predictability keeps me safe. Safe from surprises. Safe from change. Safe from people who say forever and then leave anyway. I learned that lesson early, at 21, when my boyfriend of 2 years woke up one day and decided he was done trying. That's how he phrased it, casual, almost polite, done trying, as if loving me was some sort of job he wasn't being paid enough for. After that, I stopped asking anyone to stay, stopped letting anyone close enough to leave fingerprints on my life. So yeah, I stay at the pool. I stay with the familiar. I stay where I'm useful, but not vulnerable, where saving people is simple, physical, immediate, clear. If someone's drowning, you pull them out. You breathe life into them, if you have to. There's no emotional guesswork, no invisible wounds to decipher, no fear that your effort won't be enough. It's easier saving strangers than saving myself. But life has a way of sneaking up on you, even in the most predictable places. I remember the first time I saw him, the man who would later drown, right in front of me. It wasn't dramatic. In fact, it almost feels embarrassing that I didn't notice him earlier, given how impossible he would soon become to ignore. It was a Tuesday, mid-June. The sun was bright, the water loud with laughter, the smell of sunscreen thick in the air. I was patrolling the deck with my usual half-bored, half-calm rhythm when I saw someone slip quietly into lane 4. No fanfare, no noise, just a clean dive, the kind that sends almost no splash. A swimmer who knew what he was doing. I only looked twice because of his shoulders broad, defined, the kind that suggested years of training. But when he lifted his head to adjust his goggles, I caught a glimpse of something else. Not his face, not yet. Just the way he paused, palms flat against the tile, eyes lowered, like he was grounding himself before entering the water. Like he wasn't swimming for exercise, but for escape. A fleeting detail, one I shrugged off. Then at the time, he was just another regular, just another person sliding through the world, trying to stay afloat. He came almost every day after that, always alone, always swimming, until his body trembled with exhaustion. And every time, I watched from my chair, sometimes because it was my job, and sometimes because something about him pulled at me in ways I didn't want to examine. I didn't know his name then, didn't know the shadows under his eyes came from sleepless nights, or that he carried loneliness like a bruise no one else could see. I didn't know that he would walk straight into the center of my quiet, carefully controlled world and shove it off balance with one desperate moment underwater. All I knew was that I noticed him, and that was already unusual. Back then, I thought I had myself all figured out, why I kept people at arm's length, why I preferred Lifeguard towers to emotional conversations, why I stayed safe instead of trying again. I had no idea that everything was about to shift, that someone was going to slip beneath the surface and bring me with him, not down, but deeper, into something I wasn't prepared for, into something that would make me feel alive again. For the first few days, he was just a silent fixture in lane 4, a pattern, a recurring shadow moving through the water, always at the same hour. But the more I watched him swim, the more I started noticing things I shouldn't have been paying attention to. He was athletic, sure, but not in that gym-polished look-at-me way. His strength was quieter, earned, not shown off. Every stroke he took was controlled, powerful yet strangely graceful, and no matter how many people filled the pool, he always swam alone, like he'd carved out an invisible barrier around himself that no one dared cross. Most regular swimmers at the pool chatted with me at least once, asking about water temperature, lost goggles, forgotten towels. He never did. He'd come in, nod politely, swim, then leave without lingering. Until the day he approached my chair. It was a Thursday, the pool crowded with summer noise. He walked up while adjusting his goggles, water still dripping down his arms. For a second, I forgot how to breathe, not because he was handsome, though he was, but because he looked directly into my eyes with this mix of confidence and shyness that caught me off guard. "Sorry," he said. "Is lane 4 open?" His voice was deeper than I expected, smooth but a little tired around the edges, like he didn't get enough sleep or had too many thoughts keeping him awake. "Yeah," I replied, trying not to sound too eager. "All yours." He gave a small, appreciative smile. "Thanks, Brian." I blinked. He knew my name. I watched him walk back to the lane, confusion mixing with something warm and unwelcome in my chest. Of course he knew my name, it was literally printed on my badge. But still, that's not usually the detail people remember. The next day, he came earlier than usual. I was setting up lane markers when I heard his voice behind me. "You always get here this early?" I turned and found him standing a little too close, wearing that same half-smile that somehow managed to be gentle and guarded at the same time. Occupational hazard, I joked. Someone's gotta make sure this place doesn't fall apart. He chuckled, and for the first time I heard how nice his laugh sounded, soft, low, like he didn't use it often. Do you, know anything about improving stamina? He asked, awkwardly scratching the back of his neck. I've been trying to get back into training after a break. Training? That word lodged itself in my mind. Sure, I said, more casually than I felt. Try focusing on breath control first. People push too hard too fast. He nodded. Makes sense? Then unexpectedly, he stuck out his hand. I'm Evan, by the way. Evan. His name settled into my mind like a pebble sinking into still water. I shook his hand, feeling that same spark from the rescue moment days later, though I didn't understand it then. His grip was warm, strong, and lingering like he wasn't in a hurry to let go. Over the next week, our interactions stretched from short, practical exchanges to actual conversations. Which lane should I use today? For, if you want fewer waves. Hey, is this form right? Closer. Keep your elbows higher. You ever swim competitively? Used to. Stopped after. Well, life. A line delivered with a forced laugh and a quick subject change. He talked, but rarely about himself, and every time he hid something behind a smile, I felt this strange curiosity mixed with concern. One evening, after a particularly exhausting session, he sat at the pool's edge beside me while I took a break. His shoulders glistened with chlorinated water, and the sunset painted his skin in warm gold. He leaned back on his palms, closing his eyes like he'd been searching for this tiny moment of peace all day. That was rough, he said, breathless. Thought I was in better shape? You're improving, I told him. Your timing's tighter. He opened one eye to look at me. You really think so? Yeah, I admitted, trying not to sound as genuine as I felt. You're hard on yourself. He huffed out a laugh. I guess so. We sat there for a while, our shoulders almost touching, almost. But every time the wind shifted, or he moved slightly, our skin brushed bare softly, and each accidental contact sent a little static through me that I tried desperately to ignore. I was a lifeguard. He was a regular. There were boundaries, lines not meant to blur, and yet, I found myself looking forward to the exact moment he walked through the gate. Every day, without fail, around 5:15 p.m., Evan arrived with the same quiet determination, the same distant look in his eyes, the same smile that never quite reached its full potential. Sometimes he caught me staring, and when he did, he didn't look away right away. He held my gaze, as if trying to read something in me that I wasn't ready to show. One afternoon, as he passed by me on his way to lane 4, his arm brushed mine the lightest touch, but intentional enough to steal my breath. Wish me luck, he murmured. For swimming, I teased. He gave that half-smile again, gentle, tired, beautiful. For everything, he said. Then he slipped into the water, disappearing beneath the surface, like he always did. Except now, I felt him even when I couldn't see him. Like some part of him lingered in the air around me. I didn't know then just how deep his everything went. Or that soon, I'd be the one dragging him back from it. Literally. And in ways neither of us saw coming.
Some evenings at the pool feel heavier than others. Thicker air, quieter water, a subtle tension you can't name, but feel in your bones. That night, everything felt off. The sky had turned a muted purple, the sun barely clinging to the horizon. Most swimmers had already left. Only a few lingered, and among them, of course, was Evan. He looked tired the moment he walked in. Not physically, emotionally. His shoulders were stiff, his jaw tight, his eyes shadowed with something I couldn't identify, but felt instantly worried about. He didn't even give me his usual soft smile. He just nodded once, almost apologetically, before heading straight to lane 4. I should have said something. I should have stopped him, but I told myself he knew his limits. I told myself he'd be fine. I told myself I was overthinking, because he meant more to me than he should. But the thing about instincts is, they're rarely wrong. From my lifeguard chair, I watched him start his laps. His first few strokes were strong, but not smooth. He was fighting the water, not moving with it. Every turn looked forced. His breathing was off, too fast, too shallow. Slowed down. I muttered under my breath, gripping the arm of my chair. He didn't. He pushed harder. Lap after lap, I saw his form unravel. His kicks sloppy, his pull weaker, his rest breaks non-existent. Sweat mixed with pool water on my palms as I tightened my grip. Something in me, something deeper than concern, tightened along with it. When he reached the far wall, he paused, holding onto the edge, trying to catch his breath. His head lowered, shoulders trembling. "Evan," I whispered, though he was too far to hear. "Stop, please." Then he pushed off again. Too fast, too desperate. Halfway through the lane, his left arm faltered mid-stroke. At first it looked like a slip, just a moment of imbalance, but then his legs stopped kicking. His body twisted awkwardly, head dipping under once, twice, and then he disappeared. I didn't think. The whistle burned between my teeth. Then it clattered onto the deck as I launched myself into the water. The cold slammed into me like a wall as I knifed beneath the surface. All sound muffled instantly, just my heartbeat roaring in my ears. I kicked downward, lungs tightening as the water grew darker. Evan was sinking fast, body limp, arms drifting like pale ribbons. "Come on." I pleaded underwater, reaching for him. My fingers brushed his forearm, cold, too cold. I grabbed him, pulling his body against mine. His head lolled onto my shoulder, his lips pale, eyes half closed. A terrifying stillness radiated from him. The swim back up felt endless. Pressure crushed my chest. My muscles screamed. My mind flashed through every moment with him. His laugh, his shy questions, the way he said "for everything," the brush of his shoulder against mine. No, 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 no. I wouldn't lose him. We broke the surface. I gasped. He didn't. "Evan!" My voice cracked. "Evan, stay with me." I dragged him to the edge, hauling him up with a strength I didn't know I had. My hands were shaking as I positioned him on his back, fingers trembling while I tilted his head back. Don't you dare leave," I whispered, my throat burning. I started compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting felt impossible through the panic crashing inside me. His chest rose and fell under my hands, but too lightly, too wrong. "Breathe. Evan, please." I sealed my mouth over his, giving him a breath. Then another. Then another. "Come on," I begged through clenched teeth. "Don't make me lose you." Then a choke, a sputter, a violent cough that shook his entire body. He jolted forward, spitting out water, gasping so sharply it cut right through me. I caught him before he fell sideways, my arms wrapping instinctively around him. "Easy," I murmured, pulling him against my chest. You're okay, Evan." He coughed again, trembling helplessly. His fingers clawed at my shirt, gripping so tightly it hurt. He wasn't just holding on to me. He was clinging, desperate and terrified. "Brian," his voice was barely a whisper, raw, shaking. I didn't want to be alone today." My chest tightened painfully. I pressed my hand to the back of his head, grounding him, grounding myself. "You're not alone," I said, the words slipping out before I could think. "You're not. I've got you." His forehead dropped against my shoulder, his breath warm but unsteady. He let out a broken sound, half sob, half relief, and every protective instinct in me surged like a tidal wave. I had saved people before, saved strangers, saved kids who would forget my name within hours. But this, holding Evan, feeling his heartbeat slowly steady against me, this felt different. This felt personal. Too personal. He shivered, his voice cracking. I just kept swimming. I thought if I stopped, I'd have to think, and I didn't want to think. I swallowed hard, my fingers brushing through his wet hair. "Then you don't have to think right now. Just breathe. He leaned into me more, his grip tightening again. In that moment, sitting on the wet tiles with Evan shaking in my arms, I realized something terrifying, something undeniable. Saving him wasn't just duty. It wasn't training. It wasn't instinct. It was him. It was a fear of losing this man whose presence had quietly become essential. It was something I wasn't ready to name yet. Not then, not out loud. But the truth had already rooted itself inside me. Evan mattered, more than I understood, more than I should allow myself to feel. He was alive, alive in my arms. And I wasn't letting go. Not now, not ever. The pool deck was still echoing with the distant sounds of swimmers packing up for the night. But all I could focus on was Evan, shaking, soaked, and clinging to me like he wasn't entirely convinced the world was real yet. His breaths came in uneven waves, each one trembling with leftover panic. "You're okay," I kept whispering, more to reassure him than myself. "Let's get you out of here." He didn't protest when I helped him stand. His fingers stayed hooked in the fabric of my shirt until I gently pried them loose, replacing his grip with my steady hand on his back. He leaned into it, shaky but trusting. That alone nearly unraveled me. I led him to the small staff room near the back of the facility, flipping on the soft yellow light. It wasn't fancy, just lockers, a creaky table, a small medicine cabinet, and a microwave that had lived through too many explodes ramen incidents. But it was private, quiet, safe. "Sit," I told him, guiding him gently onto the padded bench. He obeyed without a word, head dropping into his hands. Water dripped from his hair onto the floor, his chest still working overtime for air. My heart twisted painfully at the sight. "Give me a sec," I said. I grabbed a towel from the emergency kit, soft, warm from the dryer we kept running, and draped it around his shoulders. His eyes lifted just barely, glassy but aware. "Thanks," he whispered. "You scared the hell out of me." It came out sharper, more honest than I planned. A weak smile tugged at his lips, apologetic. "Sorry, not the way I planned our evening." "You have plans to nearly drown often?" I snapped, but the worry in my voice ruined any attempt at humor. He let out a breathy laugh. "No, not usually." I knelt in front of him, lifting the towel to gently dry his hair. His eyes fluttered shut, either from exhaustion or the simple relief of being cared for. He didn't pull away. If anything, he leaned slightly into my hands. "I just pushed myself too hard," Evan murmured. "I wanted to clear my head. Thought swimming would help." "Swimming helps," I agreed softly. "Drowning doesn't." His lips twitched. Fair point. I took a slow breath. "Evan, what happened out there?" For a moment, he didn't answer. His fingers rubbed at his temple, his shoulders curling inward as if bracing himself. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, fragile. "I've been overwhelmed. For a while." He swallowed. "Work, family, expectations. Everything piling up. I thought if I swam hard enough, I could outrun it for a bit. And today I pushed too far," he whispered. "And I didn't care. Not until it was too late." The confession hit me harder than the rescue itself. "Evan," my voice cracked. He shook his head quickly, sensing my worry. "I wasn't trying to, I wasn't trying to disappear. I was just tired, really tired." His eyes lifted to mine, raw and sincere. "But the moment I went under, the first person I thought of was you." My breath stopped. Just stopped. "What?" I asked, barely able to get the word out. "You," he said again, more firmly this time. "You were the first thing my mind grabbed onto. Not air, not fear. You." A rush of heat spread through my chest, surprising, overwhelming. I didn't know what to do with it. He looked at me with something open and unguarded in his eyes, something that made my pulse stumble. "I don't know why," he added softly, "but it's the truth." I felt my heart clench hard enough to hurt. "Well," I managed, clearing my throat, "let's try to avoid testing that theory again, okay? I don't need you drowning, just to think about me." "Brian," he said gently, "if you hadn't been there, I was there. I cut in," my voice firmer than expected, "and I'm always keeping an eye out for you, whether I mean to or not." Silence settled between us, A charged, fragile silence. I moved to sit beside him on the bench, our knees brushing lightly. He didn't shift away. If anything, he leaned just barely toward me, like gravity had its own plan. "You don't have to talk about everything right now," I said. "Just breathe. I'm here." A long exhale left him, slow and shaky. He turned his head, his temple brushing my shoulder. "You make it easy," he whispered. "Being here." My throat tightened. Hard. I reached for his hands, the same ones that clung to me like I was the only solid thing in the world minutes earlier. They were still trembling. I squeezed him gently, grounding him. "Evan," I said quietly, "next time you're overwhelmed, come talk to me. Or sit with me. Or hell, let me make you tea while you rant about life." His lips curved. "You'd really do that?" "I already am." I stood briefly to pour hot water into a cup from the small staff kettle, mixing in the cheap, calming tea packets we keep for stressed parents. When I handed it to him, his fingers brushed mine, lingering for a beat too long. Neither of us commented on it. He took a slow sip. "Tastes better when you're the one giving it." I rolled my eyes. "Don't flirt with me when you just nearly drowned." "Why not?" he asked, voice soft but steadying. Almost dying gives me courage. I felt myself flush, something warm, something dangerous. "Okay, no more near-death bravery," I said. "How about normal bravery? Like, letting me see you outside this pool sometime." He blinked at me, then smiled. A real one this time, gentle, hopeful, and achingly beautiful. "I'd like that," he said quietly. "A lot." I didn't realize how much tension I'd been holding until that moment, when everything in me loosened in relief. "Good," I murmured, nudging his shoulder with mine, "because I'm not done keeping an eye on you yet." He laughed, soft, tired, genuine. We sat there a while longer, warmth growing between us despite the chill of our wet clothes. And for the first time since pulling him from the water, I felt something besides fear. I felt the beginning of something new. Something gentle. Something inevitable. I didn't expect to see him again the very next day. Most people who nearly drown take at least a week before showing their face inside a pool facility again. Some never return at all. Trauma sticks like chlorine on skin. It takes time to scrub off. But when I walked onto the pool deck the next morning, rubbing sleep from my eyes, something warm and unexpected was already waiting for me. Evan. He was sitting on the far end of the bleachers, elbows on his knees, fingers tapping nervously against a paper cup. He looked up the second I stepped into view, and even from across the tiles I could see the way his shoulders loosened, like he'd been holding his breath until I appeared. My heart did a stupid, traitorous leap. I tried to hide it behind professional calm. "You're back." He stood, holding out the cup. "I, brought you coffee." I blinked. "Coffee? For yesterday," he said, "for saving my life, and for not yelling at me afterward." He paused. "Well, not too much." I snorted, accepting the cup. "Oh, trust me, I held back a lot of yelling." He smiled, really smiled, eyes crinkling at the corners in a way that made something warm unfurl in my chest. I hated how easy it was becoming, being soft around him. "So," I said, clearing my throat, "you okay today?" He hesitated, his gaze dropping to the tiles. "Honestly, I almost didn't come. I thought you'd think I was an idiot, or reckless, or weak." That last word was so quiet I barely heard it. I stepped closer before I realized I was moving. "Hey, look at me." He did. "You're not weak," I said. "You had a bad moment. Everyone has them. Coming back here took guts." Evan's throat bobbed as he swallowed. "Yeah? Then why do I feel like I'm shaking inside?" I didn't think. Just put a hand on his arm. He tensed at the touch, then relaxed into it like warmth spreading under cold skin. "Because yesterday scared you," I said gently. "It scared me, too." His eyes softened. "Really? I thought I lost you for a second," I admitted, voice low. "You don't forget that kind of fear." Silence stretched between us. Not empty, but full, charged, like the air right before a summer storm breaks. He sat back down slowly, patting the space beside him. "Will you sit with me?" Just for a minute? I wanted to say no. I wanted to be the responsible, professional lifeguard who kept the right distance, who didn't confuse saving someone's life with wanting to be part of it. But Evan looked like he needed someone to stay. And despite everything I told myself, I wanted that someone to be me. So I sat. He chuckled under his breath. This is stupid, isn't it? No, just human. His knee brushed mine. Not by accident, not entirely. It stayed there warm and steady, like an anchor pulling me toward a tide I'd been pretending I didn't feel. What were you thinking about? He asked softly. Right before you jumped in, when you saw me go under. I exhaled. Honestly? Nothing. My brain shut off. It was all instinct. Evan tilted his head. Instinct to save me? Instinct to not lose you. I corrected before I could stop myself. His breath caught. I felt heat flood my cheeks. Sorry, that sounded weird. No, he said, shaking his head quickly. Not weird. He looked at me for a long moment. Just honest. The word hung between us. Heavy. Important. Evan leaned back slightly, studying my face the way someone studies a painting, not sure if they're allowed to touch. Can I ask you something? And you don't have to answer if it's too personal. Shoot. Why do you seem so alone? It hit harder than I expected. Maybe because it was true. I stared at the rippling pool surface in front of us. I guess I stopped letting people close after things went bad once. Figured distance was safer. I shrugged. I'm good at saving people in the water. Not so good at letting anyone save me. He was quiet for a moment, then said, Maybe you don't need saving. Maybe you just need someone willing to swim beside you. My pulse stumbled. I turned toward him. Evan. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hair damp from the misty pool air. Yesterday, when I went under, I wasn't just physically tired. His voice softened, trembling at the edges. Some days I fight myself more than the water. I understood exactly what he meant, more than he knew. Then I'm glad you came back. I said, You didn't have to do it alone today. Evan smiled, but this one was different. Smaller, vulnerable, real. I'm glad to. We sat quietly after that, our legs touching, our breaths sinking without effort. The pool was noisy around us. Kids splashing, whistles blowing, water smacking tile. Yet somehow, in that chaotic place, we carved out a stillness meant only for the two of us. Eventually, Evan nudged my shoulder. Hey, you free after your shift? My chest warmed. Maybe. He grinned. Good, because I owe you another coffee. One that isn't a terrified thank you gift. I laughed. Deal. And just as I looked away, pretending I wasn't smiling like an idiot, Evan said softly, almost to himself, I'm really glad you didn't let go. My heart did that same stupid, powerful leap, and I knew, without understanding how, that yesterday wasn't the end of something terrifying. It was the beginning of something beautiful. Sunset at the pool was my favorite hour. Quiet, wash in gold, the water reflecting the sky like molten glass. Usually it calmed me, grounded me, but not tonight. Tonight, every step toward the far edge of the deck felt like walking toward something I've been avoiding and craving in equal measure. Evan was already there, sitting on the ledge with his feet dipped into the still water. The orange light made him glow, warm skin, soft shadows, eyes that pulled me in even before he turned to look at me. You came, he said, voice almost shy. Of course I did. I sat beside him, close enough to feel the heat from his shoulder. You said you wanted to talk. He laughed under his breath. Yeah, talk. God, why is this harder than drowning? I nudged him lightly. Don't joke about that. Sorry, he murmured, looking down at his reflection. I guess humor's easier than honesty. A breeze rippled the water. The scent of chlorine mixed with crushed grass from the lawn outside. Everything felt suspended, like the world knew something important was about to happen. I cleared my throat. Evan, about yesterday. He shook his head. No, let me go first. He pulled his feet from the water and turned toward me completely. His eyes were steady but soft, like he'd made up his mind about something heavy. Brian, I need you to know, I wasn't scared of drowning. The words hit me too fast. What? I mean, yeah, physically it was terrifying, but the fear wasn't new. That feeling of slipping under? I've been living with it for a long time. He exhaled shakily. I didn't drown because I was careless. I drowned because I was tired. Tired of what? He looked at me like he already knew I felt the answer deep down. Tired of pretending I didn't want you. My throat tightened. He kept talking, like a dam finally breaking. I kept coming here day after day, pushing myself too hard, swimming until my chest burned, because it was the only place I could see you, the only place I could breathe. His eyes glistened faintly in the dying light. You made me feel safe. Seen. And yesterday, when I went under, the only thought I had was, I didn't want to disappear without you knowing. I didn't know I was holding my breath until it escaped in a shaky exhale. Evan, he reached out, hesitant, trembling, and touched my wrist exactly where he grabbed me after the rescue. I told you not to let go, and you didn't. Not then. Not now. Everything I'd been burying, hiding, tucking away beneath professionalism, and fear pushed to the surface all at once. I swallowed hard. I was terrified of losing you. I confessed quietly. You have no idea how much. When you went under, something inside me snapped. I wasn't thinking about rules or distance or being your damn lifeguard. My voice cracked. I just knew I couldn't watch you slip away. Evan whispered, "Why?" I finally looked him straight in the eyes. Because I care about you, more than I wanted to admit. His breath hitched, and in that moment, everything fell into place, not suddenly, but like I'd been walking around with pieces of him in my chest for weeks, and now they finally formed a picture. I said softly, I've been wanting you too. Silence settled, deep, warm, indescribable. Evan leaned closer, but barely, just enough that I could feel the ghost of his breath. Brian, can I? He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I closed the distance first. The kiss was slow, so slow it felt like the world exhaled with us. His lips were warm, cautious at first, like he was afraid I'd pull away. But I didn't. I pressed closer, fingers sliding to the back of his neck, feeling the soft tremble in him that mirrored the tremble in me. He kissed me again, deeper this time, grateful, relieved, like he'd been waiting for this moment as long as I had without knowing. The sunset reflected off the water in shimmering waves around us. The faint hum of the pool lights. The soft splash of our feet swaying beneath. It all wrapped around the kiss, sealing it into memory. When we finally parted, foreheads touching, both of us breathing too hard for how gentle it had been, Evan whispered, I've never felt more alive than right now. I smiled, soft, full, unguarded. Yeah, I murmured. Me too. He brushed his thumb along my jaw. So this is real. It is, I whispered. It's been real for a while. Evan let out a breathy laugh of relief. Good, because I don't want to pretend anymore. I squeezed his hand. Then don't. The last sunbeam slipped behind the horizon, casting us both in twilight. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the dark creeping in. Because he was right here, warm, steady alive, and he had just kissed me like I was the breath he'd been searching for. In a way, I think he was mine too. It's been a few months since the day Evan kissed me by the pool, the day everything shifted, quietly but permanently. Sometimes I still catch myself replaying it when I lock up at night. The softened glow of sunset reflecting on the water, his breath trembling against mine. It feels like a dream I somehow stepped into and never walked out of. Evan's doing better now. Really better. The shadows in his eyes have faded into something lighter, steadier. He still has rough days, but he doesn't face them alone anymore. He talks. He lets me hold him through the heaviness, instead of swimming, until he collapses from exhaustion. And honestly, watching him heal has been its own kind of miracle. And me, I don't feel stuck anymore. Life used to feel like long, repetitive shifts marked by whistle blows and routine rescues. But now my days end with something warm to look forward to. Someone waiting for me. Most evenings, we swim together long after everyone else leaves. Not laps, not training. Just drifting side by side to the quiet water, talking about the men we were before and the ones we're becoming now. Sometimes he floats and lets me drag him around the shallow end while he complains dramatically. Tonight, as we tread water under the glowing pool lights, Evan splashes me with a playful grin. You know, I tease, wiping my face. There were easier ways to get my attention. Most people start with a hello, not a full drowning incident. He groans, shoving me gently. Will you ever let that go? Never. He swims closer, curling a hand around my waist. Good, because I won't either. I kiss his forehead, the water warm around us. I thought I was just a lifeguard. I whisper, turns out I was waiting to be saved too.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share your thoughts with us. Your feedback is very valuable and will help us improve. May I kindly ask which country you are joining us from?